Welcome back to the Fire Up Connect radio talk show. This is your host, Foo, PR expert, and I am going to have now Michael Sipe, which is the COO of Strategic Advisor Board. And we're going to talk about emotional health and well-being and how automations play a big part on a business success. So, Michael.
Hey, James. Great to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for coming here and taking some time to share a little bit about your knowledge. So first, I would like to start you by if you can tell us a short intro so people know who you are and what do you do.
Yeah, thanks, James. So I am Michael Sipe. I am the Chief Operating Officer for Strategic Advisor Board, and I'm also an owner of my own business, the Sipe Coaching and Consulting, where I help businesses create an energetic workforce, sort of a vitality within their workforce. And it starts at the top, of course, as you might imagine. It starts with leadership and creating a culture where people feel included, where they feel like they're part of the team and they have a culture of wanting to succeed. So that's a little bit about my background, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about what you're finding in your work.
What I'm finding in my work is that PR it's a great way to really communicate with people through stories. And as humans, we are storytellers. So that's something that it drove me to dedicate myself into PR because there's nothing like a good story, right?
Right.
And that's
Right.
that's what I like, being able to place these stories on reputable sources so people can trust what is said on there. So that's very great. Thanks for asking me about that. And for you, I would like for you to talk a little bit about emotional health and in the well-being of the person, and why emotional health and physical health is so important to be able to succeed in business.
Yeah. So what's interesting, of course, is in small business, we are we as small business owners, we are in the trenches. It is hard to be a business owner, right? And so having emotional and physical well-being is very challenging, right? So if you think about it, after 5 years, over 90% of small businesses are not around anymore. Even after 2 years, 50% of them are gone. So if you think about it, that's a lot of stress that comes in one's life, right? As a small business owner and as a CEO. So when we are having to deal with that, it can really add up. So back on your point about telling the story, let's talk about Terry. All right. Here's Terry's day, right? Terry gets up in the mornings, doing his normal thing, gets to his company, his where he runs the business, and is going to just kind of check on things and see how things are going, doing normal CEO duties, right? And then what happens is it's COVID time. Guess what? Two of the workers called in sick, right? So, oh, and they don't have somebody else to come in and work. So what does he do? Like, he knows the company, he steps in, starts doing some of the work. Next thing you know, it becomes the afternoon and they've slammed with work. And so he ends up doing a lot of the stuff that he doesn't normally do as the CEO. He starts doing some of the operational, even some of the tactical stuff at work, right? And then at the end of the day, when they're closing up shop, his 10 hours that he thought he'd have at work turned into 14 hours. He gets the call, "Hey, honey, when are you coming home?" Well, I got a little slammed. I'm going to be here a little bit longer, right? That's now 9 p.m. at night. Okay. Oh, now I got to enter all the financial data for the day. Now it's 10 o'clock at night, right? Well, darn, QuickBooks isn't working right now, or my software isn't working right now. It's not going right. Now it's 12. And then, oh, as he's heading out the door, turning out the lights and everything, the bathroom hasn't been cleaned. They got customers coming in first thing in the morning. If you're a business owner, you're going to feel responsible for that, right? So who's cleaning the bathroom in the middle of the night? Do that day in and day out. That builds up a lot of stress. So there are some ways that one can deal with that. All right. There's a lot of talk, a lot of people doing meditation. That's great. But if you're a business owner, you don't have a lot of time in the middle of the day to go do meditation. You're not going to go off and find some quiet space, right? So one of the things that I like to teach is that it really comes down to taking 5 minutes. All you have to do is take 5 minutes. 5 minutes of some simple breathing and a little bit of emotion, the higher level, sort of what I would call it anabolic emotion, right? The elevated emotion. So here's what we do. You do 5 minutes, and here's this 5 minutes with 5 seconds of a breath coming in, visualize the air coming in through your heart, and the heart gets a little bit of energy from that. Pause, and then 5 seconds of breathing back out. And you do that again and again for 5 minutes. It really helps the body's underlying system. It's called the sympathetic nervous system. When we are in a stress mode, our sympathetic nervous system is kicking in full time. It doesn't get a chance to rest. So if we're able to take some time out to the day for 5 minutes and do some of that breathing in and out, that works great. And then while we're doing that, what's even better is to feel gratitude. Feel some elevated emotion of joy, some passion. Think about those first days you got the company going and how fun that was. So those are the kinds of things that can really help with one's emotional and physical well-being when they're in the thick of it, when they're stuck with all the challenges that we're faced right now.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And those you touch on some really good points on like that that gratitude and meditation and just taking some time to stop and remember why are you doing it, right? Like not just like the moment of like what's happening. And it's more like, why am I doing this? Like why did I started it? Like you said, like going back and really just focus on how being calm and that way. So when you take care of your mental health, right, like you take care of your mind, like the stress away, then you can think clearer and you can take better decisions as a business owner. And same comes with the physical. Like if you're not feeling good, you're not gonna be able to help your business, let alone help others. So I think that was pretty good on touching on that. So thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
I one thing that you have mentioned me before, and it was something that I really want you to talk about. Um, how does automations and inflation relate to each other? Like that's something that I never heard before, and it's something that you mentioned before, and I would love to for you to dive in on that a little bit.
Sure, I'd be happy to make the connection there. So, right now everybody is talking about inflation, and it's front and center for us, and it's the highest it's been in over 40 years for the U.S. this last month. And just to give you an example, this isn't just US, right? It's Japan. This past year, producer price index 9.2%, China 10.3, the Eurozone 23.7, and then in the US it was 9.7 this past year. Now think about it, producer price index is really what businesses have to do to produce their things. And that's not just the goods, it's also the services. So labor costs are going up, right? So when you think about inflation, it's not just how much you're paying for that box of Cheerios at the grocery store. It's also, as a business owner, your supply chain. How much do the supplies cost now? If you're bringing it from China, it's a lot more expensive. The shipping costs have gone up. The delays in the shipping, the supply chain infrastructure has kind of broken a bit after COVID, and it's still repairing, and it's going to get better, but we still see that. So the issue we see is that when you have high inflation, businesses have to adapt. Jason talked about this earlier about, you have to pivot. And yeah, inflation will probably come back down and normalize towards the end of this next year, but the paradigm has shifted. We're probably in a multi-year period of longer term inflation. And when that's going on, then you have to adapt. And we've seen this back in the 80s when the personal computers came online, that it changed the whole dynamic of how businesses operated by bringing in personal computers. Well, now automation and artificial intelligence are the keys to being able to make quick pivots. And small businesses have an advantage in that they can make quicker pivots, knowing that they have the data from and the analysis of that data from artificial intelligence that can help them shift into newer markets that are trending or surging markets. And on the flip side, from the services perspective, when you talk about labor costs, manpower, right? A lot of costs go into manpower. But if you can automate, then guess what? You're now saving because you're not paying for that health care. You're not paying for the increased labor. You're not paying for all the other overhead that comes with putting bodies in seats. And so you talked earlier about remote, right? Remote and the flexibility of being remote. That's great. So the the automation piece of looking for cheaper ways to operate as a business becomes really tangible. And what I like is, and what I stress to businesses is when you're looking at artificial intelligence, that's a big term. It's like innovation. It's a term that's used a lot, but it doesn't really mean a lot to the everyday person. And what it really means is, can you produce tangible, actionable information that can be used to help grow and scale your business? And if you can find the right data and pull that data out of a larger data set and make sense of it before anybody else does, then you have a leg up in the game. So when one's doing artificial intelligence, don't do it for artificial intelligence's namesake. Do it because you want to find that needle in the haystack that big data analytics will find for you, and then pivot off of that and go into newer markets so you can scale and grow quickly.
Awesome. That's something that I haven't like I have thought about indirectly, but not really directly. I do know how inflation is affecting everything, and the way that we're going, like things are uncertain, really. And one thing that you can do is act on things that you have control, right? So there's inflation, yeah, like that's something that we really don't have control, but knowing that it's happening and how to do adjust for like not like your margins to make sense with the new world, right? With the new prices and everything, and how automations right now can be so like can help make your business very efficient. And I do believe in automations totally. I love like the people to people touch, but the automations are something that are here to help the communications of people to people, not substitute them.
Right.
And that is something that I really like that you make that connection, because nobody thinks about it that way. So really, thank you for sharing that. That was really good insight. Something that I haven't heard of people comparing, like tying those two. Really, is not something that people are doing. So thank you for sharing that.
Sure. And James, thank you for allowing me to be on your show and all of us to be on your show from the Strategic Advisor Board. It's been a real pleasure for all of us to be with you today, and we look forward to being with you in our future event.
Definitely, we stay connected with strategic partners, and thanks for taking some time. And I'll probably have you again. Yeah, like thanks for this little bit of time.
Awesome. Great.
Now, after a short commercial, we're gonna come back. I'm gonna talk a little bit about PR and what I see that the future of PR is, and where is it moving, and how NFTs can will play a big part in business. And don't go anywhere. We're gonna come right back